Beatmaker is the squad. What's good? It's your boy Cheese, the producer. So we're going to take another look at the Akai MPC One and routing audio through USB with firmware 2.10 into the Tascam Model 24. So without any further ado, let's get into this. Now, as I said before the intro, we're going to be looking at the Akai MPC One and mixing a beat on it using the Tascam Model 24 and routing audio through the USB using firmware 2.10. But before we get into all of that, let me get all the YouTube pleasantries out of the way. I invite you guys to subscribe, like the video, leave a comment. Check out Beatmaker is the Squad on Instagram, at Beatmaker is the Squad. Also check out at We Sample Everything, and check out the What's in Your iPad podcast, which is streaming wherever podcasts are streamed. I guess that's the word. Anyway, let's get into this. Beatmaker is the Squad. What's good? It's your boy Cheese, producer. So last video, we basically ran through how to route audio from the MPC One to the Tascam Model 24, any other multi-track audio interface. Okay, so today what I'm going to run through is what I wanted to do was I wanted to make the beat and then mix the beat, but like I kept just having the hardest time like getting a beat that I liked, and then finally I got one that I liked, but the cameras weren't rolling, so you know how it goes. Anyhow, so what we're gonna do today is I'm gonna actually go through a beat that I created, and I have a pretty, I would say a first round mix on it, from here, the MPC into the mixer, and basically what I'm just trying to get is a 2-track, and a couple things to just talk about before we even get started on this. When sampling into the MPC, okay, if you're using your mixer as your inputs and outputs, if you have this particular mixer, the EQ will not register when you sample in. You would actually have to sample in on the main stereo, the main out tracks. The main out tracks would be the ones like I told you last time. This particular board goes from track 1 through 22 that you can physically see. 23 and 24 are the main out tracks. Those tracks would have the EQ and everything printed on it, and we'll actually see that in action a little bit later, because once the mix is done, I'm actually going to record a 2-track into the MPC from the MPC itself, and I'm gonna just perform like different EQ moves and effect sends live when I make the 2-track. Okay, so before we even start, let's just hear the track really quickly. Alright, so right now you're listening to the track live, and if you look on the mixer, you'll see already that I kind of have everything laid out and mixed to a certain point, to a certain degree, I should say. Now, if you look, you'll notice that everything is actually under zero, way under zero. And the reason for that is because, number one, I want to have headroom to like compress and do all that other stuff to add more, add the like finishing effects on it and whatnot. But let's just go through each track so you can see what each track is, okay? So I'm just gonna mute each track. All right, so track 15 and 16, which is this one right here, is just the bass from the sample, okay? Track 13 and 14 is just the actual sample itself. Track 12 is just an open hi-hat. Track 11 is a closed hi-hat. Track 10 is a snare. And track 9 is the kick, and track 8 is actually not being used. Okay, so if we take a look at the EQ section on the mixer, and I'm just gonna adjust the camera so we can see that. Okay, you'll see that I've made some changes to the kick. In the kick, I've added a little bit at 80 hertz. The snare, I've cut at 80 hertz. Also, in the kick, I added at 100 hertz as well. I'm sorry, no, actually on the kick, I cut at a higher place. I don't know why the hell I did that, honestly. I mean, I just do it as I go along. However it sounds is how it sounds for me. On the snare, I've actually cut at 80, and then a boost up around like 600, and another boost at 12 kilohertz. On the hi-hats, I gave it a boost at 12 kilohertz as well, and another boost in the mids, and I cut all of the bottom out. I probably should do the same for the open hat too as well. All right, so the track just ended. For the sample, you can see I cut at 80 and I boosted right here at 12. Actually, what's gonna happen is while it plays, I'm actually gonna roll this off between the chorus and the verses, so you can hear a clear difference between the chorus and the verses. And then this is the bass track. Bass track, I rolled off the highs and just gave it a little boost on the bottom end. And everything, as you can see, level wise. So on the kick track, I have it down at -10. The snare, I have it down at -10. Usually when I'm mixing tracks, I usually keep everything at -6 and below. But as I was mixing this, I noticed that it was actually really, really loud. So I brought everything down to -10. So the kick, the snare is at -10. The hi-hat is at about -20. The open hat is at -20 as well. The sample I have at -10, and the bass I have about -12. Okay, and if you don't know, when you're at 0 decibels, right, that's like your level hasn't been pushed up or pushed down at all. When you bring it down by 6 decibels, once you subtract 6 decibels from your volume, you cut it in half. Okay, so from 0 to 6, your volume's cut in half. From 6 to 12, it's cut to a quarter, so on and so forth. Okay, if you notice on the mixing board, also you'll see that the space between 0 and like 5 is kind of small, but then that space between 5 and 10 is a little larger. But 10 and 15, it gets smaller. 15 and 20. So really, what you want to do is you want to make sure your levels are right in the MPC first, so that when it gets to the mixing board, your levels, you don't have like this crazy just overblown sound. So what we're gonna do real quickly is we're just gonna run through it, listen to the beat once again, and we're just gonna make sure everything is where it needs to be. I'm also sending some things to the reverb. Okay, so obviously the kick is not going to the reverb. The kick is right here, and you can see that sends us down. The snare is going to the reverb. The hi-hats are going to the reverb. The sample is going to the reverb, but the bass sample is not going to the reverb, because you don't really want too much bass going on in the reverb, because then you just get a bunch of mud and rumble. Let's get this mix started and let's do this. All right, so before we get into actually mixing the track, let's just take a look at how I actually separated the tracks out and what I had to do in order to make that happen. Okay, I wanted to focus on that one particular pad, so I hit track mix for this particular one, and literally what I did here is, since that hi-hat is the only sound that's coming out of that track, the only sound that's coming out of that program, what I did here was I actually took that track and I put it out through out 12 right here. So you'll see 4 hip hop kit, and that is going out through out 12. Okay, Now beyond that, let's go to the next track. Okay, go back to main. This is the main sample. Okay, so that is coming out of 13 and 14. So as you can see, it's Osley Chop 13 and 14. Okay, you guys got a gem there because I don't share samples, so you know who made the sample. So you know you can dig around, you can probably find it. All right, let's keep going. All right, then we go to track 3. Track D3 is the track. This particular program has the kick, the snare, and the open hi-hat. Okay, so if I go into track mix, this one, because it has 3 sounds coming from one kit, I'm actually going to use pad mix for this one. So as you can see in the pad mix, the kick right here is going out throughout 9, the snare is going out throughout 10, the open hi-hat is going out throughout 11. All right, and then go back to the main. Next track is it's the same kit, but because of the changes that I made previously, it still separates it out. Okay, and then track 5 is just the bass sample. So it's just a sample with, you know, the filter on it and just the bass kind of being pushed out. And so if I go to track mix, you'll see that one is coming out of 15 and 16. Now, in order to record this back into the MPC from the mixer, what I want to do is I'm going to simply go to the sampler page. Okay, so right now where the sampler page is at, the input is 1 and 2. That's not the input that I want. I'm going to switch this to inputs 23 and 24. Reason why I'm doing 23 and 24 is because on the Model 24, tracks 23 and 24 are your stereo main outputs. This particular track will allow you to record all of the effects, all of the EQ and whatnot. I'm not 100% sure if it records the graphic EQ just yet. I'll try that out and see what it does a little bit later. But I know for a fact the graphic EQ is recorded through these inputs, these outputs here, which are going to a digital recorder, which is how you're getting the majority of the sound from the MPC anyway. But I have the graphic EQ. Actually, I'm just going to bypass it. It's set flat, but I'm just going to bypass it for now. So now another thing that you can do when you're actually recording your song in, you can hit, and this is not just for recording your song, when you're recording the samples, what you can do is you can actually go into the inserts and you can set up some effects. So if you're, I know some people were talking about, oh, I want to boost the EQ on a sound as I'm recording it in through the mixer. You can do that, but like you have it kind of on board on the MPC already. So you know, you have 2 ways of making it happen. Okay, so you know, if you're really bummed about not being able to use the onboard EQ when you're recording samples in, even though you can, in order to use onboard EQ to record samples in, you have to record the main outputs of the mixer. And on the Model 24, that's input 23 and 24. Model 16, Model 12, I'm assuming that would be, for Model 16 would be probably tracks 15 and 16. Model 12 probably be tracks 11 and 12, but I've never used those, so I can't really speak on them. So now that I have this set up, I have a maximizer here. I'm actually going to take that off. It wasn't engaged anyway, but I'm going to take that off because I don't want any effects on it. I just want to get the raw audio, and then if there's anything else I want to add to it later on, I'll just do that. But for right now, what we're going to do is we're going to have the track come in, recorded back into the MPC. So we'll be right back and we'll do that right now. All right, so we are back. Now we are going to actually record the song back into the MPC. I'm quite sure I'm gonna get some things wrong the first time, but whatever. That's the whole point of this. You get something wrong, you figure out what you do it wrong, and then you go back and do it right. All right, so I'm just simply gonna arm the MPC so it's recording. All right, and then I'm just gonna press play. All right, so over here, what I'll be doing is I'm just gonna be messing around with the EQ and stuff. So the first EQ I'm gonna mess with is on the sample when it goes into the verse. And then I'm gonna mess with the reverb sent on the snare. So now it's coming out of the verse, going back into the chorus. So I'm gonna open the EQ on the sample up. And I'll bring it down just a touch. Going back to the verse, let's close that echo, bring it up a little bit. Just adding some live mutes. Just add a little variety to it. Now I'm going back into the chorus. Now I only made just 2 verses, so I could just have this nice and quick. Get the 2-track, get in, get out. And normally here I start fading stuff out, but I'll just do that, you know, via the MPC. But yeah, that's pretty much it. I hope this was helpful. Hope this helps you in your journey to mixing your own beats and stuff like that. If you have any questions, definitely leave it in the comments. Definitely subscribe, hit the thumbs up, and let me know how you feel about the video. It's your boy Cheese, and I'm signing off for Beat Makers.